Hey, in this video, I'm going to walk you through writing an essay, starting from understanding the prompt all the way to the writing of the thesis. Before you begin any essay, you need to make sure you understand what the prompt is asking of you. So in order to do that, you must read it very carefully. Write an essay explaining how Richard Connell uses irony in his story, The Most Dangerous Game, and explain the effect it has on the reader. Use evidence from the text to support your essay. After you read your prompt, you need to turn your prompt into a question. This is done because it lets your mind, your brain know what you're focusing on while you're writing. So my question is, how does Richard Connell use irony in his story, and what is the effect it has on a reader? This has all the parts. Explain how Richard Connell uses irony in his story, and explain the effect it has on the reader. So that's the two parts. Now I could go into different directions for my body paragraphs. I could talk about how Richard Connell uses irony in body 1 and the effect it has on the reader in body 2, since I'm using two body paragraphs. However, instead, I'm going to talk about how Richard Connell uses situational irony but instead, I'm going to go ahead and talk about how Richard Connell uses situational irony and character development, and he also uses situational irony and the shocking plot twist. Within each of the body paragraphs, I'm going to answer the question, what is the effect it has on the reader? All right, very important. If you're doing an evidence-based writing, you must have really good evidence. In order to find the best evidence, of course, you need to read the text, but make sure you know what you're looking for while you're reading. So I'm looking for, how does Richard Connell use irony in character development, and how does he use it in the shocking plot twist? The evidence gives you something to talk about. You don't want evidence that just repeats your main idea. Make sure it's evidence that gives you a little hint of some more things to talk about. My first evidence is going to be, this weather is making you soft, Whitney. The world is made up of two classes, the hunters and the huntees. And it doesn't stand alone, because this one kind of connects with this one. I refuse to believe that you harbor romantic ideas about the value of human life, in paragraph 114. The reason I used these two to show the irony in character development was because in the beginning, Rainsford is talking to Whitney and kind of making fun of Whitney, how Whitney feels bad for the jaguars that they're hunting, and he's like, oh my gosh, you're so soft. But then at the end, through a twist of, character, we have Rainsford being made fun of for having romantic ideas about the value of human life. And of course, I'm going to talk about how it came to be. Then the next piece of evidence for the body 2, I have, oh, you can trust me. You in turn must agree to say nothing of your visit here. And I'm still a beast of pay. The way I'm going to use those two is to show how the plot kind of like shocked the reader, because in the beginning, when General Zeroff is talking to Rainsford saying, like, oh, but if you win, I will let you go. And of course, it sounds like great news until Rainsford does become successful and he does survive the game. Now he doesn't want to just leave. He actually wants to finish the game, which in this case is to, well, kill him. All right, now you're ready to write your introductory paragraph, but you can't write an intro without a thesis. Thesis is the statement that stands alone by itself. I'll explain that in a minute. Let's look at the prompt first. Write an essay explaining how Richard Connell uses irony in his story, The Most Dangerous Game, and explain the effect it has on the reader. Use evidence from the text to support your essay. Right. I have the question. How does Richard Connell use irony in his story, and what is the effect it has on the reader? Using the question and my two body paragraphs, I'm going to make sure that I answer the question in one sentence, and I have to answer all parts of the prompt in one sentence, including my 2 body paragraphs and including the title and the author. That's a lot to put in one paragraph, one sentence. In fact, there's also more rules. You cannot have any unknown pronouns in the thesis. You cannot have the words he, she, it, they, his, or her unless you tell me who he, she, it, whatever those pronouns are within that same sentence. The thesis statement must stand alone. That means I can pull that statement out and I don't have any questions about what you're talking about. You must answer all parts of the prompt. If this is argumentative essay, you would tell us where you stand in the argument. What's your opinion? All of that must be in your thesis. If you have a text and an author, it must be included. And you also want to give your body paragraph main ideas within that very sentence. That's a lot to include in one sentence, and it has to make sense. So here is my thesis. Richard Connell creates a cinematic experience in his story, The Most Dangerous Game, through his successful use of situational irony and character development and its shocking plot twist. So I have the author, Richard Connell. He creates like a movie-going experience in his story. It's the title of the text, The Most Dangerous Game. How? Through successful use of what type of irony? Situational irony. In body 1, character development, and body 2, shocking plot twist. I do have the word his right here, but I know who his is. It's Richard Connell, so I'm allowed to use his because I already told you who Richard Connell is. Through his successful use of situation irony, again, his is Richard Connell, and it would be successful use of situational irony and character development. And so situational irony is it. So if you have any pronouns, you need to tell me what it is within a sentence. If I have this sentence right here all by itself, it's already a good answer. I don't have the question of like, wait, who said that? Oh, what kind of irony? Everything's right there. Now this thesis statement is going to be used in the last sentence of the intro paragraph. So this isn't the introductory paragraph, it's just the last sentence of the intro paragraph.